Meh. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Copper Creek YouTube channel. My name is Ashley from Charmed by Ashley, and I am here to bring you the Aurora Sweater. Isn't she beautiful? I just finished it. It is super comfy. I don't want to take it off. I'm just missing the two buttons, but I'm going to put those on. So just pretend. This is a really fun pattern, a little bit challenging with the collar, but completely obtainable. This is the first time I've done this collar, and I pretty much nailed it on the first try. I'm super proud of myself. So hopefully my step-by-step instructions will help you to be successful in making the Aurora sweater from Copper Creek Patterns. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask down in the comments, and also any of the tools and things that I use and the link to the pattern will be located in the description box down below. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and of course come over to the Instagram page for Copper Creek. They like to hold sales and all kinds of things over there that you might want to take advantage of. So if you want to sew along with me, go ahead and grab that pattern, download it, cut out your fabrics, and then I can meet you back here. I'm using a French terry, so this is a knit pattern, so make sure you have a nice comfy soft knit fabric, not too thick, and you're really gonna love this sweater. I'm obsessed. I really like it. It feels so comfortable, and this is going to be one of my go-to sweaters this holiday season. I'll tell you, I've made probably about 6 or 7 shirts from Copper Creek, and they all fit beautifully. I can't stop grabbing them from my closet, and I'm about ready to get rid of all of my clothes that are retail for Copper Creek. Seriously. They're that good. Okay, we're gonna go over the pieces of the sweater first. Now, the front of the sweater is not cut on the fold, and as you can see, it has an asymmetrical design. It is a large pattern piece, so if you are cutting out with a projector, for me, I had to draw a guideline down the center to be able to shift the pattern over and be able to cut it all out at the same time. If not, I would advise maybe just printing out the pattern pieces for the front bodice just so that it's easier to cut. But with that being said, I would also recommend that for the neck pieces as well. So we have the front, we have the back bodice piece that is cut on the fold. Every time there is any sort of notch or markings for this pattern, is really important to make sure you have those, because this pattern will only work if you draw out all of the notches and the darts. We have 2 of the sleeves that are cut mirrored, and again there are back markings and front markings. The back ones are usually signified with 2 lines, and the front is 1 line, and then we have our center point marking here. It's kind of hard to see, but there is some chalk marks. It's a yellow chalk that I used. I have a waistband, so we're going to be doing the tunic top with waistband, and so there's 2 of these, and now we have our neckband pieces. Now these are the pieces that I would possibly recommend you print out the pattern pieces. I did not do that for these pieces, but for this one I did print it out because I wanted to make sure that I had the drill markings correctly. So these are the circles right here. Now if you're new to drill hole markings, it's just a mark. It's not like you have to actually drill a hole through your fabric. So the name is kind of misleading, but just remember that we're not cutting the fabric, we're just marking the fabric. And then as you can see, we have a left and a right, and we have a pleat drawn on here, and then we have markings here and here, and there is also markings on the pattern for the buttons, but I think I'm gonna opt out on buttons or possibly add them later. I'm not quite sure yet. I have to see if I like this sweater first. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the collar, because that is going to be the most complex. And I'm going to be using my iron, so I'm going to prepare that, because everything is going to be way more beautiful if you use your iron and press as you go. Okay, so I have my iron here. We're going to put the back neck piece aside and the right one aside, and we're just going to work on the left pattern piece. So make sure you mark those so that you don't get confused. Also, when you are cutting out this pattern, it says to cut out the fabric with the right sides up, so that's really important, so that everything is going in the right direction, including the front bodice piece. Okay, so I'm gonna position my fabric so that the pleat is closest to my body. So try to orientate yourself in the same way so that we can do the same steps together. So what you're going to do is you're gonna take this row or this line and we're going to pinch it and bring it up to the other side of the pleat. So that middle marking is going to be sort of the center fold line. So that is how it is going to look. And you can see the fold kind of underneath, and that should be where that fold line is. And I'm going to be using a tailor's clapper when I'm working with this knit fabric. When you're ironing knit fabrics, you want to use your steam function on the iron. That will help to get a better press. Because it's not like cotton. Cotton, when you press it, it's crisp and clean. But with knits, they need a little bit more help to be able to crease, and that's where the steam is going to come in. So I'm just going to press and not glide it. We're just pressing and we're steaming. And depending on your fabric, if it is a delicate knit, you don't want to add too much heat. So we're going to put the tailor's clapper on there, and what that's going to do is going to keep that radiant heat in the fabric, and it's going to slowly cool but also kind of retain that heat for just a little longer. It really helps to make those creases really nice and strong. Now with that being said, if you don't want to crease your fabric and you don't want to iron it, you don't have to do that. It will show up on your garment. I'm sure after a while, after you've worn it and washed it, those creases will kind of dissipate. I don't really care about that in the long term. I just kind of want to make sure that the construction goes smoothly, and that's why I'm pressing it. But if you feel comfortable not pressing, then by all means, don't press. So I'm just going to show you how it is looking. And as you can see, we have a really good crease, and even that center line is lined up. So that is a perfect pleat in my opinion. Now that we have that pleated, I'm going to go ahead and take a pin, and we're just going to pin it and secure it into place so that our pleat doesn't fall out. You can use clips too if you like. And I also recommend using ballpoint pins when you're working with knits, because ballpoint pins will actually slide in between the threads of the fabric, unlike standard pins that will actually pierce your fabric and cause little micro tears that could worsen over time through washes and wearing. Okay, now that we have our pleat done, what we're going to do is we are going to flip it over, maintaining that pleat, which can be a little tricky when it comes to these knit fabrics. And then we're going to fold the other side of the fabric down with the wrong sides together. And everything should sort of match up as long as your pleat is done correctly. And then we're going to go ahead and press this and make sure that if you have any pins, that they aren't under your iron. And if they are under your iron, they would have to be glass head pins or pins that don't have plastic on them. And we're just steaming. And then I'm going to place my clapper, and then that'll be it for the left collar piece for now. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're just going to set it aside for now, and we're going to grab the right side collar piece, and we're going to do the same thing that we did last time. so that we can orientate ourselves to each other. We have the pleat down closest to our body, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold this line up to the last line and create that pleat. Just like that. And you can kind of see that if you were doing this on your own, this is going to match up with this. So, you know, once you kind of see what we're doing, then you kind of know what to do. But I can understand these pieces are quite intimidating the first time you lay eyes on them. Okay. And we'll do the same thing, and we will pin that pleat down. And then we will flip it. So the wrong sides are up. And then we will fold it in half lengthways. Making sure everything is nice and flat. And then steam. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to set that aside, and we're going to get our back collar. And now what we're going to do with our back collar is we are going to fold that with the wrong sides together, and we're going to give it a memory crease. So that just means that this crease, we will be opening this up and doing more things with this pattern piece, but we just want to make sure that we have that done first, because once we do the other steps, it'll be harder to go back and press that. So we do it first. And give it a good steam. And hold in that heat. You can really see what it does, that clapper. It really does help to press further. So now that we have everything prepped and ready to go, we can start to attach our collars together. So we have our back piece, and we're going to be working with the left collar piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my my back piece. We're going to just kind of orientate it this way. We're going to take our left collar piece, and we're going to take the part that has the crease down the middle, and we're going to line it up with the crease that is already here, and we're going to take a pin and pin that into place. And then we're going to take this corner and we're going to bring it up to that corner, and we're just going to pin along the inside of the V till we get to the middle of the V. And then the fabric's going to extend down to that drill marking, and that's okay, that's what we want. Then we're going to take the other side that has our pleat, and we're going to bring that up to the other little part of the V. And I'm just going to move these existing pins with the pleat. And then if you put your finger here, you can kind of see that we're going to sew down here with a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. and then we're gonna go back up and over here. So it's kind of weird. Just want to make sure that that fabric is flat behind there and nothing is pinched or tucked or anything. And yeah, let's go do that. Okay, so we're gonna start here where the pleat is, and I'm going to take my pins out as I go. You can leave them in if you are so bold. I'm too afraid to. And try not to stretch your fabric, and if you need to, kind of lift your presser foot to tuck that pleat in there. And make sure nothing is in the way. And we can find where that pin was. We have a black pin there. And we're just going to follow the edge of the collar piece down to that pin. We have a lot going on here. I'm going to stop and I'm going to lift and then resituate. Take that pin out. Drop my foot. And then we're going to go back up the other end of the V. Right to the end. Just like that. Just make sure that nothing is kind of caught or pleated wrong. And I think that looks good. Okay, so now that we have our left on, we can start working on the right, and we're going to do it the same way. Okay, so we're going to orientate it this way. We're going to take our piece, and I have some pins, so I'm going to remove some of them. And we have the larger part of the pleat there. We're going to again go over that drill marking. Okay, I need to get that one out of there. I'm going to hit that. I've hit one of these in my machine. It is not pretty. Okay. And then I'm going to take one of my little pins, and we're just going to pin that so that the fold lines are lining up. And now we're going to do the same thing where we bring that up, and this is the pleat, so we want all the pleated fabric together, which is about 4 layers. Okay, and then the other side doesn't have as many layers. And then we're going to do the same thing where we're going to sew down and then back the other side. So again, we're going to do a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And sewing. I'm scared. Whew. Okay. Now as we get to that V, we're going to turn and take that pin out. Whoa. Here we go. And make sure you get all those layers, all 4. Now I'm just going to go back here because I didn't start right on the edge because I didn't want my fabric to get stuck in my machine. So I'm just going to do that. So again, just making sure that everything is good. Okay. Okay, so now that we have our collar constructed, you will see that you can see the pleat details from the top of your fabric. So if one is flipped over, you'll know that you did something wrong along the way. So making sure that we have everything folded beautifully. We have the short side on your right hand, the longer side on the left hand. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the left side, or the left collar, and put it over the right collar. And the left collar is shorter. And we're going to take some pins and we're going to pin the corner, and we're going to go ahead and baste stitch the corner. You can baste stitch the whole thing at this point if you want to, all the way around the edge, just to make sure that all of the layers kind of stay together. But if not, just do about 2 inches and 2 inches. So we have our neckband, and we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to move over my needle so that I don't want these stitches to be visible. Okay. This is just a temporary baste. Because this is a V-neck, you really need this. This is going to help you a lot. Okay. Just like that. And make sure that all of your layers are cut. Okay, so now we're going to take our front and back bodice pieces and we're going to line up the shoulder seams. When we go to install our neckband, we need this to be constructed. So I'm going to do that first. And you can switch over to a serger if you have one, or you can just use a regular machine and then do a knit stitch or stretch stitch or zigzag to finish off the seams since it is a knit. Okay, so now we're going to attach the V collar, and we're just going to focus on this corner, or the V, the deep V first. We're going to make sure we get that right before we move on to the rest of the collar. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some snips and you're just going to cut into this, into that V, but don't cut those stitches. And we're going to take a pin and we're going to take our collar here. So we have our right sides up on our shirt and we have the right sides of our collar, which is going to be down. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your pin and you're going to stick it through the, like before the basting stitches. And then we're going to stick it through the corner there. And then that's just going to help us so that we can pivot the fabric. So from there, we're going to take our collar and we're going to kind of turn it so that the layers of the fabric are all lining up with the raw edge of the collar. And we have to make sure all of our layers are going at the same time. And then you can take that pivoting point again, and then you can take the collar and bring it the opposite way, making sure that pin is sticking out. Kind of use it as like a little handle. You can use clips or pins, whatever works best for you. And you can pin up a few inches. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew that to make sure that it is a nice V shape. We want it to be really crisp and beautiful. Okay, so we still have our little pivoting pin, and we want it to be 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter, making sure that we're on the other side of that basting stitch. And we can start sewing. Okay. Now we're going to lift our presser foot, and we're going to go up the other side and put it down and then sew. And we're going to make sure that our fabric is all intact, and you can flip it over and admire your work. That looks really good. So we have that collar started, and now we can continue on pinning around, making sure that we are right sides together. Do not stretch your collar. And when we get up to the side seam, that should line up with the seam of the collar, like that. Just make sure you don't twist it or anything. Looks like it's going good. I'm so excited. At a certain point, then it's going to be less bulky. So I went ahead and pinned it all the way around. And so now we're just going to do a regular stitch. You could do serger, I don't know. Let me know if you have. I'm just gonna do what I know works, and that is to use my regular sewing machine. So I'll just begin where I left off, and when you get to that side seam, then you just kind of move it, because it's kind of like a box corner.
And then we'll pivot it again. Make sure the fabric doesn't fold or pucker.
Okay, so now you can, if you want to, I don't know where that thread came from, give it a steam. But I think I'm going to do that at the end, and we're going to go ahead and install our sleeves. And I'm just going to do that by doing it with the arm side and the side seams all at the same time kind of thing. Well, this actually, first we're going to attach our sleeves and make sure that the back is here. So that's the front of our shirt. And I'm going to take this one because this is the opposite one. And I have a center notch there. And I will go ahead and pin. You don't have to pin the whole thing when you do it this way. I find pinning it at the start and at the end and the middle is kind of enough. And then as I'm sewing it, I kind of stretch it out flat without stretching it, and then sew at the same time. But if you feel more comfortable matching it up, then you can do that too. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna do that at the machine. And I'll go ahead and put the other sleeve so that we can do that all at one time. Okay, so I like to take the one corner, get it started, and then I'll just kind of gently lay it down without stretching our fabric. We don't want to stretch the top or the bottom. Take out that center point pin. And now we're going back down the other end. And then I will take this part and bring it over. Okay, making sure everything is good. As long as you don't stretch, everything should fit beautifully. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side really quick. Okay, so now we have both of our sleeves on. It looks kind of crazy right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to put the front and the back bodice together, and that will form our sleeves. And then we're going to take our armpit seams and put those together. And you'll see how the shirt is now coming together. And I like to just pin the armpit and then the beginning of the side seam, and the beginning of our sleeve. I am choosing to do the 3/4 length, so you can do, I think, long length, so long, and I think there's a cuff option. These little tails here, I don't mind them so much. I just will cut them off and it'll serge right into the seam, so I don't get too worried about them. I just make sure that as I'm sewing that I pull them forward so that they can catch while I'm sewing past it. Okay, now we're just gonna sew up the side seam and then down the sleeve.
All right. Pull those threads out and your pin. You do not want to get a pin in your serger. I've done it. If there is a notch, it's okay, that will be cut off. We no longer need it. So that's pretty simple, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side of the shirt.
Okay, now we're going to prepare our band, our waistband. I am doing the tunic, so I am just going to do a pre-press first before I sew this on. This is just going to make it easier. But again, we're going to use that steam function and get a nice crease down the center of the band. And we're running out of steam here. And we'll repeat that step with the second band. Now once you've had that pressed, all you're going to do is open it back up, and then we're going to put both of them with the right sides together, and then we will serge the side seams to make our band. And now that we have that crease already placed, then when you have it sewn together, you can just put it back, refold it again, and it'll be much easier.
Let us sew the side seams.
Okay, so we went ahead and finished our side seams, and we have our band that we pre-pressed because we're really smart like that. And now it's just going to easily fall into place. Just making sure that all those raw edges are nicely lined up. So now what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna find our quarter point, and that's just gonna make sure that this goes in evenly. Okay, so you just put those side seams together, and then I just cut little triangles. And now I'm going to take my shirt and I am going to find the quarter point. So I take the side seams, put them together, and then take the front and the back. Don't stretch it. A little notch there and a notch there, and that's just going to make sure that because no doubt we're going to have to stretch this to fit around the opening of the shirt, and while we're doing that, if things aren't kind of distributed properly, then things will get overly stretched out in certain areas. So by putting those or checking for those quarter points, you are making sure that it will distribute better. Now, what I'm doing now is the shirt is still inside out, but I'm just taking my band and I'm taking the raw edge and I'm putting that against the right side of our shirt, and then we'll take the center notch that we made and line it up with the center notch of the band, and all I do is pin the 4 points, and by pinning those 4 points then we can stretch the band quarterly, and then that'll make sure that everything is distributed perfectly. So it'll fit pretty well, but there'll be a little bit of a stretch, not too much, because as you can see, we have a little bit of fabric here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull it, and then that band will then match up with the length of the actual shirt.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is put your garment into the machine, and then I am going to get it started. Okay, so that's our first quarter point, and I'm going to go down to the next quarter point, and I'm going to pull on the band only to be able to make it so that it is the same length. And sometimes when you pull your bands, because it's knit, things can get a little curly, so you just need to kind of flatten things out as you go. Make sure you're only stretching the band. I like to put my thumb under, just like that. Make sure that that notch still lines up with that notch on the shirt. Now that we're at our next notch, we're going to shift down the fabric to the next quarter point, and again fix the fabric and pull it. take that pin out, try to match up the side seams, and then we'll keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side of the shirt now. Now that we have 2 quarter points done, it's exactly the same. And then we're pretty much done. Okay, so now we have our band on, and it might look like this. Don't worry, we're gonna take our magical steam. It seems like that's the theme of this. And we're going to steam away. And what that's going to do is it's going to make all of these ripples go away. Because the fabric sort of gets stretched out when it's being serged. So to steam it is to help it bounce back. Okay, so the shirt is done. I just need to hem the sleeves, but I will do that. That's pretty simple. So now we're gonna try it on and see if it fits. Real time, we're gonna see if it fits together. And it fits! What do you think? So I made the tunic, so it's a little bit longer. It goes over the bum, but it looks really nice with leggings, and I think it'll be a nice, like, around the holidays, Christmas kind of shirt. I might add the buttons, actually, because it does look a little bit bare. So we could say, like, right? Let me know in the comments if you think this is the right button choice. These are just some of these natural wood ones. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions about the pattern. The pattern will be available in the link down below, as well as any of the tools that I use in this video. I will link those as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye guys.